As ASCENT, we do a very interesting poll every January in the beginning of the year with our ASCENT members to figure out certain challenges and certain goals that they have set out for themselves for the year. And we try to build content and curate content around that, and hence get a lot of great speakers to come along with us in this journey. And one of the top three challenges that, out of the top three challenges that the entrepreneurs had said that they are facing this year and they want to learn more about. And on the top of the list is actually personal branding, along with digital transformation, customer acquisition, and retention. And we thought this is a great opportunity for us to invite Mike Handcock, who is actually right now based out of Cape Town, but originally from New Zealand. Let me quickly introduce Mike to the audience today. Mike is a specialist in conscious leadership using cutting edge technologies, ancient wisdom, and science. He is the chairman of Circle of Excellence Group, co-founder of Conscious Leadership Movement, and is a renowned author from New Zealand. I believe he has published 14 books under his name. So a really warm welcome to you, Mike, and very happy that you are doing the session for us.
Thank you, Archana, and hello, everybody, wherever you're based around India. And I was just saying to Archana before that, for those of you that think I haven't been to India, I've actually been 21 times to India, and I've been there. I never thought I would go to India. So when I first had the opportunity to go in 2005, it sparked that curiosity in me, and somebody gifted me a copy of the Bhagavad Gita, Archana. And actually in 2012, we myself and another guy wrote a script based on the story of Arjuna. And actually that's with Bollywood at the moment, looking to be turned into a motion picture. So I have a real affinity for India, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you guys today. Let's jump into personal branding. I'm going to speak for around about 15 minutes and just outline some things for you. And then we're going to, I think, go back into some questions and allow you guys to ask me anything you want as well. So I'm going to do a quick screen share, but before I do, I want to give you some a framework around this. Personal branding is not the way you cut your hair, what suit or tie you're wearing or anything like that. In fact, personal branding is only one part of something which is actually so much more science to it than the science of personal branding. And I call that, or we call that, positioning. And this is really about how you as a business owner or entrepreneur position yourself and your business so that you build trust very, very quickly. With all of us going more and more online these days, the one thing that's much more difficult for people to do is to create trust. And on top of that, we've got more and more people yelling at us on Facebook, how great this is, how great that is, how to do this, buy this, do that, go here, go there, go everywhere. So you and I are all competing in a sea of white noise. And so that white noise becomes really, really noisy. And it doesn't matter how hard you've got your hand up in a sea where everybody's drowning, it may be unlucky that you get to be the one who's saved. So from that, positioning, which is really the mothership of personal branding, is what I want to share with you now. So let's jump into the infographic. Chana, just give me the thumbs up that you can see that there.
Yes.
Okay, great. Now I'll blow it up for you because there is some parts. The first part is authority. So for you to build a personal brand, you have to have authority. Now, Archana mentioned in the intro there that I have 14 books. 5 of them are international bestsellers. Conscious Leadership was the most recent one, went to #1 on Amazon last year in the leadership space. So it was some pretty heavy competition. Now, I'm not suggesting each and every one of you go and write a book, because there are other ways to author. The best way for you to author is have a regular column in your industry magazine and become known throughout your industry. Have a regular blog that's not your blog, but actually goes on to platforms like Huffington Post, Evan Carmichael, curated things where more and more people can see them, so that way you become an authority. If you look at the word authority, take the last 3 letters off, it's the word author. So you really have to position by become knowing as some type of author. Academic papers and those type of things are great as well. The next one is industry awards. So in 2020, we won 2 awards. We won, I think, a dozen or 13 or 14 over our career. But in 2020, we won 2. Both were a surprise to us. We didn't enter into either one of them. One of them was, I'm very well known in the speaking industry globally, and one of them was the top award in speaking worldwide. So that's a fantastic award to win because there's 55,000 registered speakers in the world. And so now that basically puts me at the top of that. And then another award we won last year, again, we weren't sure about, we didn't know where this came from, but somebody nominated us, was an Asia Pacific Business Award for Conscious Eco Leadership. So again, these awards give you authority. So you should be looking at what can I apply for? How can I position my business? And one of the beautiful things about awards is that in many of them, they have to dig, the award authority has to dig into your business. And when they dig into your business, guess what? It means that you bring your business up to a certain level so that you can compete for the award. So even if you don't win, it has a major advantage for you. Then there's professional titles and qualifications as well. So your MBAs and those things are important. And then the other authority behind you is the research and the science that you've done to actually put forward whatever it is that you're putting forward in your business. So for instance, this infographic is part of 120 infographics that we have in our company, and I'll just move it across so you can see it, in our company, Worldwide Business Intelligence, represented by the octopus up there. And this information is not gleaned from universities. In fact, we're selling this to Harvard University at the moment in Asia, and they're talking to us about buying this and white labeling it. This comes from actually working with over 300,000 people just like you and getting to the actual point. So let's look at the second part of authority here, and that's what we call substance. Now, unfortunately, I'm talking to you online, so I can't give you any substance except my voice, but substance really matters. And, you know, for the ladies that are here or for the men that are here that go through airports with their wives and they stop at the duty-free counter and spray all the perfumes and things like that, you'll understand that these cosmetic companies understand sampling. So therefore, you should sample as well. And if you're a coach, you can sample. If you're a consultant, you can sample. If you're a photographer, you can sample. If you're a plumber, you can sample. It doesn't matter, but sampling is substance. The other thing that we would really suggest to you is maybe you can't write a book, but maybe you can create a hardcover coffee table book. Now, this isn't a coffee table book. This is my actual diary. But if I go like that, it's got substance. So when I put it down, sorry about the background noise, it feels substantial. And we've shared with, and I want to give you a recent story. We've shared with many people. I've had engineering firms do coffee table books of projects they're on, clients they've worked with, full of testimonials and things like that. I've had most recently an organizational behavior specialist in Germany do an amazing coffee table book because he's also a mountain climber. So he combined mountain climbing and organizational behavior and design. When you walk into a client that you're pitching with a hardcover coffee table book and you start going through that, it's going to have substance and it's going to give you branding. Then your corporate gloss folders, the insurance world did this very well with their leather folders and things like that that they had for many years. You need your own. Don't just roll up with a laptop or something like that. And the last one is banners and stands. Now, for those of you that are consultants or pitching boards in the room, I can tell you this works just so well. If you're pitching a boardroom and a group of people sitting around a boardroom table, your competitors are going to walk in before you, put on their PowerPoint presentations, and everybody's going to go to sleep. So what you want to do is you want to bring in hard copy, big, solid boards. Have a couple of your team members come in and position them around the room and then talk to the information on the boards. Like I could produce this infographic as a board and talk to that. It could be 6 feet high by 6 feet wide. And if I did that, I'm going to engage you with so much more substance. You're going to think that I have so much more value. It's going to improve my personal brand. Let's move on. Credibility. One of the biggest mistakes I see, and I know Indians love to network. I've been to so many networking events in India, whether it be EO, YEO, local networking events, Mumbai Chamber of Commerce, you name it, okay? I know you guys love to network, but here's the mistake that I see at networking all of the time. And let's take BNI, for instance, because people get, you know, their 1 minute or 30 seconds at BNI to do this. They stand up and they say, hi, I'm Achana Das. Basically, I run the ASCENT Corporation, and we focus on this. But also I have a real interest in horses, and you know, I'm really thinking of creating an equestrian center just outside of Lonavala, so that I can work with horses more. The minute you do something secondary, you create a lack of clarity, and your brand drops by at least 50%. And you'll see people going, I do this, I do that, and I do this. All they're doing is diluting their personal brand. Pick one thing. We have 5 different companies that I'm chairman of, but if I'm at an audience with you, I'm going to only talk about one thing. Today, it's Worldwide Business Intelligence, which is one of our companies, which is licenses intellectual property around the world through ed tech platforms and so on and so forth. Available to all businesses, entrepreneurs, coaches, consultants, banks, etc. So that's what I'm going to be branding today. Secondly, not cluttering that up with any other business. Secondly, visibility. You have to be seen to be credible. So that's going to lead into your digital footprint, but you also have to be seen offline. Your digital footprint has to be very clear. So I'm going to give you an example so you understand this. I worked with a lady just last week, and I clicked on, she is the #1 economist in South Africa. She used to work for the government. She's now a consultant on economics. So I was working with her literally on positioning. So when I got on the call with her, I said to her, Clarissa, because that's her name, I said, Clarissa, I know you work for the government because your LinkedIn profile says that, and that comes up #1 there. But I also noticed that you and your husband just won $2,000 in a competition at the local pizza parlor. And she said, how did you know that? I said, it's because the #3 thing that comes up on Google for you. Is that what you want to come up for the leading economist? That you actually enter competitions at pizza parlors? Now, we love the fact that she won the money, but the point behind it is your digital footprint confuses people. I can go to many of your LinkedIns and look at what it says about you, and go to your Facebook and it says something different. Then I can Google you and it'll say something different again. You have to get all of that into something that, where the old saying is all roads lead to Rome. And that leads on to the 4th thing, consistency. So with that, let's move on to social proof. Social proof, what can prove socially to your audience and raise your brand profile? One is your global reach. Clients that you're working with outside of India shows that you're not just a local business. You know, whether you're in Bangalore or whether you're in Jaipur, it doesn't matter. You're not just a local business, you have global reach. That can be one thing. Secondly is business travel, literally posting photos of you traveling for business. You know, I have a number of friends that do this and people that we've taught, and even I get jealous sometimes. I go, wow, now they're in Berlin, or now they're in here and something's there. I'd love to go there, or there's a place I haven't been, or they're really enjoying going back to Bangalore every time on their weekly visit or something like that. Business travel really helps create social proof. Public events. Events for your clients, photos of, you know, photos, picture tells 1,000 words. So when I see somebody, if I look at their photos immediately, I'll go, are they surrounded by lots of people, or are they constantly just with 1 or 2? Are they speaking to large audiences, or are they just speaking to a few? And then media cover is other social proof. Make sure you keep those clippings of magazines, newspapers, etc. that you're in. And the last one I want to talk about before we jump into questions at the moment is transference. And transference is one of the biggest ways to build your brand. So transference by being a member of a professional association. So for instance, if you're a member of EO, Entrepreneurs Organization, everybody knows you have to have $1 million to be a member of EO. So already the the power of EO is transferred to you. Having a corporate CEO recommend you is going to be, you know, if you had one of the Reliance brothers write you a recommendation, or one of the Burlers write you a recommendation, suddenly you've got this really high profile because you're transferring all of their power. If Amitabh Bachchan writes you a recommendation and it's on your LinkedIn, suddenly you've got the power of Amitabh Bachchan behind you, and people can't tell the difference. They just feel you're playing at that level. So transference is really important. The same with premium clubs. We're a member of a premium club in South Africa, which gives us worldwide rights, even to a couple of Indian clubs. So when we travel, we don't have our meetings anywhere else than in premium clubs. Why? Because if you meet people in coffee shops, then people think that your price point is at a coffee shop level. If you meet them in a 5-star hotel or a premium club, your personal brand is at a 5-star or premium level. And the last one is getting endorsements by anybody who's an influencer. And I'm not talking about celebrity influencers here necessarily. I'm talking about, you know, and not all of them are good, because, you know, you've got actors like Sanjay Dutt, who's been in and out of popularity during his career. But I'm talking about influencer endorsements by people who are micro influencers, who have a certain captured audience. Maybe it's a competitor who's at the top end of their game, but doesn't do what you do. So with that, I'm going to stop the screen share now. That's a good bit of overview. Archana, let's jump into some questions.
Right. So we had requested the attendees to send certain questions in advance. So I'll go through those and direct them towards you, Mike. The first question is personal branding from entrepreneurs and organizations perspective both. Do I need to be the face of the brand, or can my work speak for itself?
No, your work will never speak for itself. You have to be the face of the brand. So, and I'm going to put some clarity around that. I was in New Zealand a couple of years ago and working with the guy he's the CEO of the biggest cloud computing company in New Zealand. And he said to me, you know, I get some really good clients, but they're sort of at this level. I haven't cracked the big guys yet. Now, he's the biggest already, but said, I haven't cracked the big guys. I said, like who? He said, Air New Zealand. I said, who? Who specifically? He said, Air New Zealand. I said, Air New Zealand. He said, yes, Air New Zealand. I said, yeah, but who? He said, what do you mean? I said, Air New Zealand doesn't exist. There's no such thing. There's only people. So who is the person at Air New Zealand that you need to build the relationship? He said, oh, Paul Fife, the CEO. I said, have you tried to build a relationship with Paul Fife? He said, no, I've been trying to get into Air New Zealand. That's why your personal brand is you. Now, Richard Branson, you know, there's a whole range of Elon Musk. Nobody cares what they do. It's their personal brands. Warren Buffett owns 1,000 businesses. His work stands for itself, but it's personal brand. So I really, truly believe the answer to that question is that if you rely only, and this is the best way to answer it, if you rely only on the quality of your work, the quality of your business, then you're only relying on half your potential, because the potential is them loving you. And if you listen to Simon Sinek, I mean, we were talking about why a long time before his initial videos came out, but people aren't attracted to your business. They're attracted to your why. They're attracted to your inspirational way that you go about this. So that's definitely what I'd say to that one.
Okay. The next question is, how important is being a good public speaker essential for an entrepreneur's personal branding?
Yes, that's a phenomenal question. I find myself on stages and in masterminds and meetings all around the world. And Landy Jack, my partner, and I tell people the top 3 skills of the next 10 years are: number 1, your ability to speak publicly; number 2, your ability to position; and number 3, your ability to sell. Okay. And, you know, you can say what you want about all the tricked up online stuff and all the apps and everything. And I know India is a hotspot for that. But I have a question for you. If the internet is so good, then why are we all working much harder than our parents were, right? And why are we all working longer hours? It's not actually improving us necessarily. So let's come back to the question. Your ability to speak publicly, whether it be in a forum like this, where I'm speaking to you guys, or whether it be in front of a boardroom of just 5 people, or whether it be on stage in front of 5,000, is your single clearest way to transform lives and get people to come and do business with you. And I want to give you some data behind that from my own personal experience, because we track this. We love to speak on stages, and on average, it doesn't matter where we speak, on what stage, on average, we make $445 per member of the audience, up to 100 members, and then it dilutes after that in bands. So if you can put us on a stage where I'm standing live in front of an audience, it goes down a bit online, but where we're standing live in front of an audience on a stage and there's 100 people in the room, that's a $44,500 deal for us somewhere in that room. And if you learn the how to speak and how to put psychology into what you're saying, then you're going to get off there and you're going to have people coming to you saying, we need to talk. So I think it's the greatest skill that you can have. So if you're unsure, if you're uncomfortable, at least go to Toastmasters or, Professional Speaking Association of India, join up, become a member and try it out, because it will expand your business and your mind. My old business partner used to be so scared of speaking. And in the year 2000, he went to Toastmasters, and his first real speech was introducing Tony Robbins to a group of 5,000 people in Singapore, and his heart was beating out of his chest. But these days he speaks regularly all over the world and drives traffic to his business interests, which are based out of Canada. So anybody can do it. And he's actually grown to really love it. So I would really recommend that you look into that.
Right. What are the factors that could negatively impact your personal brand?
Very good question. Probably the biggest factor for everybody on this call that can negatively impact your personal brand is a lack of clarity. So what that means is that, if I Google your name and then I go and find out, first thing says you own this engineering company. Second thing says you're the chairman of the Chamber of Commerce. Third thing says, you're a president of the cricket club. By the time I've gone through that, I'm really confused. I don't really know what you do. It's psychology. It's how people's minds work. People love clarity. It's like when people get up at a meeting and say, this is a networking meeting, and say, hi, I'm Mike. What I do is I look after people's finances. I have some views to the future. I focus on the part. I will get working with some business structures. Sometimes I do sort of insurance planning and stuff like that. It's just too much. Well, if they got up there and they said, I'm a management accountant, people would go, yeah, I pretty much know what that is. So really keeping it clear would be the first thing. The second thing is probably just making sure that you do what you say you're going to do, because the word of mouth is just such a big thing. And I'm so pleased that in the work that I do, that, you can go in and Google our name and go to page 400 if you want to. And there's only ever been one complaint ever made about us online in over 15 years of business. And after you read the complaint, you'll read one of our clients telling this person off. And after that, you'll read him actually taking back his complaint and saying he's wrong. So, but you won't find it now. You'll have to look pretty hard because it's so far down, because you've just got to do what you say you're going to do and your reputation will be solid. And anything else will just damage your personal brand. Third thing, because I think it's important, you're the sum total of the people you hang around with. So I know this isn't going to, I know many of you are not going to do this, but I really want to put the thought in your head. You need to have walkaway power. And that means you need to fire some clients. Yesterday, I actually said to a client of ours from Costa Rica, I'm going to fire myself. This is not going to work out. This is not how I thought it was going to be. And she was like, no, please don't fire me. I said, I'm not firing you, I'm firing me, right? She's no. And so we managed to actually get back on track. But if you've got needy clients, you've created needy clients. If you've got clients with complaints, you've created them. If you've got clients that are an absolute joy and your life is bliss, you've created that. So if you've got anything else but pure bliss with your clients, sack some of your clients. And so your reputation, your personal brand will be based on, and if you bring your clients together and your great clients think your other clients are not so good, that's going to be a slight against your brand.
I hope we take away from that at least the third part, which is going to be challenging to do that, because businesses are based on relationships. Wouldn't that be challenging, Mike, to do that?
Businesses are based on relationships, but it doesn't mean you have to work with a person who is not in your value system. And that's what's going to bring you down. And I think, to be quite honest, Archana, for everybody here, we turn back 7 out of 10 people that ask to become a client of ours. We don't sell anything. Right. Most people come to us and say, how can I work with you on this? How can I get involved in that? When you do that, you've turned that sort of strategy into more of an attraction strategy, which is good. But, and I'm not telling you guys I'm great. I went through a lot of heartache as well, and I got to a point in my business career where I said, I'm sick of dealing with people who take all of my time and spend very little money and don't respect us and who haven't got manners. And they'll send you a WhatsApp or something. Well, it was long before WhatsApp, but they'll send you an email at like 9 o'clock at night and expect you to return that, or at 6 o'clock in the morning. And, that's disrespectful. So I think the answer to people is, if you can overcome your natural tendency to think that there's scarcity in the world and have to grab every sale because it's just there, and you relax, then it's going to really help you. And I want to give you a quick synopsis. When Landi, my partner, and I got together, she was running an incredibly successful consultancy firm based in Johannesburg. And she really wanted to come travel the world with me, integrate our businesses. She did this to her clients, and some of you are going to laugh. She rang every one of her clients, and they were household brands, Swissair, Thomson Reuters, you name it. They were those type of clients, Remax, etc., and said, I'm really sorry, guys, but I've now fallen in love and I'm going to go traveling. So I'm not going to be able to come and visit you anymore face to face. We're going to move online. And by the way, because I'm going to have to get up to speed with all this tech stuff, and because I'm going to have to talk to you at some weird times and that, I'm actually going to double the fee. And guess what happened? She lost 40% of her clients. The other 60% accepted the doubling of the fee. So her business went up 20%. Yeah. And she got to change everything. She wasn't driving in peak hour traffic, because Johannesburg's pretty much as bad as Mumbai, peak hour traffic to go to meetings. She was like literally sitting in Greece with me on a beach and sitting on Zoom and having meetings. And so you've just got to have the guts to make these changes. By the way, she doesn't use email either. She hasn't had an email address for 7 years. So, you've got to change the paradigms. Okay, we're off track with the email. Let's get back on track.
Right. What are the various tools available for personal branding? Is there any professional help that can be got for this, that one can get for this?
Yes, definitely. I think firstly, it's really common sense. So I'm going to put, when we get a break and you're doing some talking or something like that, or maybe I'll send it to you and you can send it out to people. I'll share the infographic that I've got so you can share it with people. You don't need much more than that tool necessarily, but then when you dig into it, you may need some expert help. I think for many people, doing some image work will be really useful, particularly if you want to work internationally. So, I'm known for color and things like that. I have clothes sponsors, I have shoe sponsors. So, but I went and actually found a jacket and put it on today because I'm talking to people in India, so I'm a little bit more formal. But normally if I'm talking to other people, I'm not this formal at all. So I think a little bit of image is good. You don't want to look like every other engineer. You don't want to look like every other physiotherapist. It doesn't mean you have to look like Albert Einstein, but there's a reason why we remember Albert Einstein and not Max Planck or any of the other great scientists, is because he did have a very unique personal brand. Secondly, I think you need somebody who can give your business a brand makeover. And that's really putting your value system and your business's value system together. And I think values is a huge part of personal branding and positioning. And this is often where CEOs become very stressed, particularly in more public companies, but often in SMEs as well. Is, we might sit down with them, we might say, what are your personal values? And one of them will be, I'll give you one that comes up quite regularly, freedom. And then we talk about their business and they're not free. They're in their office at 6 a.m. and they're there till 8 p.m. at night, and they have to work Saturdays and they hardly see their children. That's not freedom. So their business values and their personal values aren't aligned. They're at odds. They're going in different directions. So getting somebody to help you lock in and align that from a business perspective, I think is going to be really useful. So top three things there would be some image work. You can Google it, but get somebody who knows. We helped a guy in Australia. Lundy did a brand makeover for him herself, which we don't normally do, but it was pretty easy to do. And she basically, because he looks like this, she basically took George Clooney's look and said, this is what you need to look like. Now, he wasn't as good looking as George Clooney, but it was the way George dresses and all that style. She gave it to this guy, David. His business went up 50% in the next year. And people kept saying to him, David, his existing clients said, David, I don't know what's going on, but there's something different about you. I can't quite pick it. It was his George Clooney style. And that's the only thing that changed. So it can have profound effects. So that's number one. Number two, look at values work. And number three, look at the infographic that Achana is going to send you out. And you may need some assistance. For many of you, the quickest way is going to be to make sure your LinkedIn profile is really, really powerful. I saw one yesterday, and I'll give you an example of what I mean by not powerful. This lady's a trainer. She works with teams, and yet all of her endorsements are in strategy and business coaching. That's not teamwork, right? So therefore, there's an instant disconnection. So there's an instant lack of trust there.
But what if you have had many profiles? So what if it's been a serial entrepreneur into diverse businesses? How does then one project a very strong LinkedIn profile?
I'm definitely one of those. So I welcome you to go and check out my LinkedIn profile. So what you'll see on there is you'll see lots of current samples of work. You'll see, I think there's about 50 testimonials, and they're all relevant to what I do currently. You'll see there's the maximum number of endorsements in about 5 or 6 different categories: speaking, strategic planning, those types of things. So you'll see that sitting there with me, and you'll also see the various companies. So it tells the same story as if you go to our website. So people don't trust your website, Achana. So they don't trust your website because you wrote your website. So when somebody Googles you, if they meet you at networking, they go back and they say, so I'm going to go check out Achana Das now, and they Google you, the first thing they might see is your website because, wow, you've done a great job of SEO. They're probably not going to go there first. They're going to go to LinkedIn because they trust the format. They understand it, where they know you wrote your website. So in there, that's where you need to spend the majority of your time. And declutter anything that's not relevant. I took down over 400 videos off YouTube a couple of years ago of me because they weren't relevant, or they were filmed in 2005 and 6, on phones, and the cameras weren't that good and all that sort of stuff. I left 1 or 2 of them up there where the messages were really great, but there was other stuff I just took down. And if you're really struggling with this, there are reputation experts around the world. We have a client in New Zealand who's one, and he works with basically reorganizing your social media so only the good things appear at the top or the right things appear at the top. So a quick way to do that is to write 4 or 5 key articles, have them listed by different curated sites, and then those curated sites, like if you have one by Huffington Post, if Huffington Post posts one of your articles, it's going to feature very high on your Google search. So therefore, if you've got something bad on page 2 or page 3, or not bad, but it's just, you used to be a clown at kids' birthday parties and now you're a CEO and you don't want them to see the clown photos, then that's actually going to go down to page 2 or page 3. And most people aren't going to dig that deep.
True. So whatever you have said, more goes with, and if I have to put this into compartments, more of an entrepreneur who is an extrovert. What happens to entrepreneurs who claim to be introverts and like to focus only on their work and again work speak for themselves? How does one overcome that mental block?
Well, firstly, I'm an introvert, so I'm not an extrovert. And you may think, flamboyant clothes and the way I speak, I'm naturally extroverted. No, I'm not naturally extroverted. But there are certain things that you have to do. Bill Gates is not a natural extrovert.
Yeah.
Steve Jobs wasn't a natural extrovert. Bill Gates is very introverted. Even Elon Musk is pretty introverted, but they have strong personal brands. Now, Richard Branson's very extroverted. So if you look at somebody like that, but there's, I could name 1,000 well-known people. There's many actors and actresses that are incredibly introverted. So I don't think it's a matter of being introverted or extroverted. We have a client in South Africa, Rainier Lombard. Rainier, you'll only find 2 photos of him on Google. One is his LinkedIn profile. The other one's, I think, his Facebook profile shot. He's known as the digital animal. He runs a whole digital social selling business out of South Africa, which is global, and it's growing incredibly fast. It's massive. He went up 300% during COVID. But his personal profile he uses is his LinkedIn posts. They're perfectly crafted. Then they're spread out over different platforms, and that brings in all of his business. You'll never find him. Well, you'll find him on a couple of our webinars if you follow us, but you'll never find him on any other webinars or doing anything else like that. He doesn't want to be a public figure. He's a backroom boy, but his personal brand is through high-level intelligent conversation.
So it's not necessarily to aim for a public image. Is that what you're saying?
Well, a public image it's to aim for a micro influencer image. I think, a public image, you don't want to be sort of walking down the catwalk with the Bollywood set necessarily, unless that turns you on, right? I've got a friend, many of you will know him, Yash Burla, and when I'm on Yash's Facebook, I mean, it was his birthday the other day, I think, and he's an incredibly flamboyant guy, but that's not what it's about. It's about rising to the top of being a micro influencer in your industry, in your town, in your city. I remember there was a property investor I worked with once many years ago, and he said, I want to become the #1 known property investor in my country. I said, well, that's going to be pretty hard. But I said, let's try this. Who's the #1 property investor in your suburb? He said, me. I said, great. Then that's what you badge. I am the #1 property investor in South Mumbai, for instance, right? Then become the #1 property investor in Mumbai. Then become the #1 property investor in Maharashtra. Then become the #1 property investor in India.
Right.
So it's sort of gradually build. Look at it as steps and stages. And if you do the authority things, if you have great testimonials, if you build your LinkedIn profile, if you've got good samples of your work that people can interact, if you use transference, then you'll naturally start moving up the chain without having to be flashy or rah-rah or anything like that. That's certainly not what I'm saying.
Right. There's a question around how do you establish leadership with a conscience in a world which is increasingly cunning and unethical at this point?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think this is where your values match comes right into play. So, you have to have those values. Now, there is a podcast that was done with me. Yeah, it was done with me. I was thinking it was with Landy, but it's done with me in San Diego last year, just before COVID. We were in the studio there. And the guy had researched us, and his podcast was all about, he hit me with the question up front. There was no warning. His podcast was basically, in what way, why did you turn down a $1.3 million deal where we could have made 1.3 million? And the answer is because it wasn't a values match for us. Now, could we have done with 1.3 million? Absolutely, right? But this is going back to a little bit what I say before. but you have to be able to sleep at night. And you have to be able to look your kids in the eye and say, Daddy or Mummy did this because of this. And so that's where values comes in. So the reason why we didn't take on this deal is it was with a major financial services company is because we actually didn't like them. And we actually felt that they would totally restrict our freedom, which is one of our values. Then we actually felt they were underhanded in some of their activities, and we didn't want our brand associated with that in any shape or form. Right. So even though they had 40,000 salespeople, but coming back to your question, the word is conscious. You know, so many people around the world are so hungry for the next deal, but the next deal can cost you a lot. And if you're conscious about what you want and you intentionalize what you want, you're not intentionalizing. I don't intentionalize that I want money or $1 million. I intentionalize that I want smooth and simple business with people that I grow to love and become friends. And that gives us all the prosperity that I need in the world. So therefore, if something's not going to be smooth and simple, or if I don't find those people with beautiful hearts, then we're not going to do business with them. And to be quite honest with you, that's the reason we're on the call today with you too, because when I did my pre-talk with you, you're a beautiful person with a beautiful heart. So, you know, why not come on and share with your audience some things that can help you and your organization and then grow. But we've turned down plenty of these things at the same time. So conscious is the word, being present is the word, looking at what's happening. If you're not feeling well, it's probably not because of something you ate. It's probably because of something's not right and in balance in your life. The cause of every disease is an imbalance in the system. And so, you know, whether you've got diabetes, heart attack, high blood pressure, whatever, it's going to come back to you not being as authentic as what you can be in your life. So that's a consciousness issue. And, you know, the world is full of that. So I want to answer the question this way, because I know I've spent a long time on this question. We were on a ship in the Caribbean a number of years ago, and it was a business cruise, in fact, with all the top internet marketers in the world. And we met a guy who's based out of Las Vegas. He's a very good friend of ours now, and he's got a really, really big network. And we sat down with him and had lunch, and this was our first interaction. He said, guys, before we talk any business, I want to tell you my values. One of my strongest values in the world is loving the person that you're with and high fidelity with that person. So if ever, I want to put this up front, if ever I find either of you cheating on each other, I'm going to take our business deal and throw it in the garbage, because I just won't stand for it. And we went, that's exactly our value system as well, right? So hence, here we are 5 years later, we've done multiple businesses for him. He's actually one of our #1 promoters in the US. And, you know, we've got a great relationship with him and his wife, because he had the guts up front to say, this is what works for me and this is what doesn't.
Interesting. So I'll take a few questions from the audience. We have quite a few, and
Sure.
We have only 15 minutes. So I will request you to keep the responses crisp, but, you know, to the point.
Sure.
So that we can take as many questions as possible. There's a question from Rishabh. What do you do if you have family business experience in a semi-organized industry, like, let's say, for example, a transport industry, and you want to enter the logistics startup space?
Well, okay, that's not necessarily a personal branding question,
Yeah,
but what I would say to you is look at the core skills and the passions that you've developed through your family business and any other family members that you want to bring into logistics. And then basically what you'll have is I've got these skills and I'm missing those skills. And then go and find people with those skills who are as passionate about logistics as what you are, and bring them into a new organization and diversify.
Okay. So there's a question from Vaibhav Kotari, again, around social media. Since we're entrepreneurs, is it necessary for us to maintain our branding in all social media platforms like Facebook, Insta, and LinkedIn, or should we stick to only LinkedIn profile?
Great question. Love it. The answer is pick what's right for you. And sometimes that is multiple media. So for instance, in what I do, YouTube is a big social media for us. Podcasting is a big media for us. LinkedIn's a big media for us. Facebook's a big media for us. And we're on Instagram, but that's That's not a big media for us. So we have to do that. So we have something like 49 posts, 7 posts on 7 sites a day going out. But we have somebody do that. I would suggest for most entrepreneurs, LinkedIn, if you're in more in the B2B space, then LinkedIn is probably going to be your number one place. If you're in the B2C space, then possibly Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, or one of the other more common things is probably going to be your number one space. If you've got something that's really interesting, then you may want to explain it through YouTube. If you've got something that's really technical, you may want to write blogs and articles. So I don't think it's necessary to be on all things. In fact, I think it's just going to dilute your brand. You're better off to do one thing properly than, every strength taken to an extreme becomes a weakness. So social media taken to the extreme becomes, weak for your business and your brand.
It's a very personal question coming at you from Kevin. Your dressing style today, is it strategical, suit with colorful t-shirt? Are you sending a message, or there's nothing deep in with your personal branding?
It's not a deep thing. I've just really enjoyed color. I mean, if you Google photos, I mean, and even ones that go back years, I'm just a man who's not scared to embrace color. I put on a black jacket today, but it's also got some color inside it. But just for my Indian audience. But if this was a webinar with the New Zealand audience, I wouldn't be wearing the jacket, for example. So I don't think you should copy me or anything like that. But I think, having something that's a signature for you is really nice, whether it be a mustache, I'm known for my beard. It's a little more scraggly. It's about to get a cut than other things. But, the dressing style is just what I like. And it's just what I naturally went into. And, on YouTube, you'll have me go, there's a video on YouTube of me taking you through my shoe collection, which I did for my shoe sponsor, because I have a shoe collection as well. Imelda Marcos from the Philippines has got nothing on me when it comes to shoes. Okay, what's our next question?
The next question is, how much time should one set aside per week on a personal branding exercise? Is there a timeline to it?
I think that's probably more of a social media thing, because this is, particularly during lockdown. And I would say 2 hours twice a week, where you really dive in, get your media up to speed. We've got a client who's a specialist in this, and I really like what she says. So I'm going to tell you this. She says basically there are 12 months of the year. Spend 1 month on one topic and take it deep. So for instance, if you're a business coach, month 1 might be on planning. Month 2 might be on sales. Month 3 might be on marketing, and go deep, but be very controversial on that. So, why planning doesn't work, so that's not that controversial. But we have one that we do because we believe that to-do lists set you up to fail. So if I was a business coach, I would say I spend a whole month on why to-do lists set you to fail. So, and then I'd try and get on radio, television, etc. with that topic. Then the next month I'd move to something else.
Right. This is a little longish question, but hi, Mike. I have encountered a situation where I've anchored a business in one industry. So there are associations that I have built based on my work there. Then the work arena changed to something completely different, but building a new image or brand becomes a challenge. How do you think I should approach the transition like that when it comes to personal branding?
This is a fantastic question, and you may not like the answer, but I think the beautiful thing is that, when it's like moving cities. If you move from Delhi to Mumbai, suddenly your network is totally different. So the beautiful thing about that is that you can now turn up as a different person. So all the paradigms and all the stereotyping that existed around you in your previous network doesn't have to be brought to your new network. You can only bring what you really love about that. So the same thing with your business. And I'm sorry, I don't know who asked that question, but the same thing goes. So I would suggest you literally do a full makeover. Basically, in other words, get into your authentic self. If that means you dress differently, dress differently. If that means that you're going to change your work hours from working from 8 in the morning till 8 at night to working from midday to midnight, do that. If that means you're suddenly now going to take long extended holidays, do that. If that means that your messaging is different, do that. You actually want the people in the old industry to go, something's changed, right? Because that's the only way you'll be able to actually make your own energetic shift. So location, it's really funny, Archana. I came out of corporate 20 years ago. I was the general manager, sales and marketing for the largest financial services company in New Zealand. And this is what I did when I started my own business. I came out of corporate. I moved to the next street. I got myself an office. I bought the furniture out of my corporate office from the company. I set it all up there. Then one day, about 3 months later, I think, why am I sitting in traffic, driving to an office around the corner from where I used to be, when now I don't even have an IT department to fix my computer issues? And why am I doing this? I don't need to do this. So then I started to build an office at home. Now I don't even have an office at home and haven't had for 10 years. I mean, my office is wherever, it can be sitting on the beach if I want to, or in a hotel or wherever. So change your environment. That's going to be my biggest things. Change your environment, change your image, and people are going to start to see you differently. Sure, there'll be a whole history of you online and the other thing, but when people see you change, they'll see it as version 2 of you, as the software upgrade of you.
Right. There's a question, we did speak a lot about digital footprint and all of that, but there's a question around that saying that Facebook and Insta, posting personal photographs on Insta and Facebook, does it affect personal branding? And any guidelines around that?
Absolutely, it does. And I mean, it's so funny whenever we hire anybody, before we interview the people, we go to their Facebook. And I mean, if they're sorry to our employees that didn't get hired, but if they're party animals, they don't get hired. If their Facebook's all about booze and partying and stuff like that, they don't get hired. It's not that I'm against that, it's that I'm against that image. Okay. So, I don't drink anymore, but I drank for much of my life, and I'm sure I had a few benders and things like that when I was doing that. But I think what you've got to do is you've got to make sure that your photos and that you put up, and if there's something somebody else puts up of you, have got to truly represent how you want to be represented. And I know, it's honestly, I put up photos of Lundy and I, when we're out to dinner, and I've learnt now I have to check that photo with her before I put it up, because she takes them down. She says, that photo makes me look terrible, right? So, and she's right. It's not, nobody wants a photo of them chewing with half a steak out their mouth or anything like that, but people have those photos up there. But I think more importantly than the half a steak out your mouth is, when other people put photos up of you and they're not going to see your brand in a good light, and it's not to say you're not a real person, birthday parties with your kids, taking your mother-in-law out for dinner, great, no problem. But, if you've got a stupid look on your face and it looks like you're half drunk, stoned or whatever, and you're not because the camera was taken and you're in the shot, just untag yourself. Or ask the person to untag you. I think it's really important to do that. But as importantly is for people to see that you're a real person. So I love going to somebody's Facebook or Instagram account and I see there they are, they're traveling, they're on the beach with their cocktail, that's fantastic. And now they're with their kids at their softball game and all of that sort of stuff. You just go, here's a real person, and you get a vibe from it. So you can get a vibe really quickly from looking at that.
So at this point, Ruchika, can I request you to put the feedback form? What I would request, we still have time and we'll have more questions for Mike. But at this time, can I request Ruchika to put up the feedback? Very important for us to take feedback of this session, allows us to work a lot more in getting better content for you through this. So please do take 30 seconds to do this. Yeah, if you can quickly take that. In the meantime, Mike, I'll continue asking those questions to you. You have given examples before, but people want to know that does personal branding actually connected with scale up of the business or the success of the business?
Oh, very much. Yeah, it's very much to do with the scaling up of the business, because there's an old saying there that people people won't buy your product. They're not interested in your product as much as they're interested in your company, and they're not interested in your company as much as they're interested in you.
Right.
So whenever you want to scale up anything, definitely your personal brand has got to be part of it. And, you know, that can be in a very clean accountant, solicitor, audited way, or it can be in a very, you know, off the wall type of way as well. So it doesn't matter. It's just what resonates with you.
Okay. There's a question from Karanshu. Posts which connect emotionally, like human touch, works well. So do knowledgeable posts. But what I've seen is posts that have human touch do wonders. So what exactly should one focus on? Showing that one has a knowledge, or he or she is good at their profession, or write post more like a human touch perspective, like real life incidents and personal experiences, etc.
I think the human touch, but integrating knowledge into that. So they call them, marketers call them Seinfeld moments. Okay. So basically, you know, I accidentally parked my car in the parking building and I couldn't find it. And this is what I learned from it. But it's interesting. We've trialed a lot of this ourselves over the years. And we've found on Saturdays, posts with chocolate, ice cream, cats and dogs gets more read than anything else.
Really? Okay.
So, if you post a photo that there's a photo of a chocolate ice cream on a Saturday and your thing is why chocolate ice cream helps you sell more, intellectual property, and then you go into my personal experience there, you'll get far more reads than just posting the why my intellectual property sales are going up.
Okay. Interesting.
Novelty.
Yeah. How to manage personal branding while grossly engulfed in day-to-day business criticalities? Again, about time and how does one take out time to do these?
Consciousness is the answer to that. Just being present, that every time you're doing this, something you're personally branding, where there's any other person involved. I'm personally branding at the moment, and so I'm well aware of that some of you will love what I'm saying, some of you will hate what I'm saying, some of you will pick out what you need out of it. So, but I'm aware that I'm personally branding. So if you think that you're walking down the street, and you're just walking down the street, no, you're personally branding. So it's presence. We were with a client a couple of weeks ago at her place of business, and a client of hers came in, and it was so funny because after she finished with the client, she came back, she said, sorry about that. I said to her, do you always scratch your butt when you're talking to your clients? And she said, what are you talking about? I said, you were giving your butt a really good scratch as you were talking to her. She said, was I? So she's personally branding, funny, but she is.
Not even realizing it. Okay.
No.
Okay. There's a question from Manish Daga. He talks about how they are a registered brand in a national association and direct network with 100,000+ farmers. I've spoken over 40 international and domestic conferences, active very much on YouTube channel and social media. How do I capitalize and monetize our journey henceforth?
Partnerships.
So he's already doing all the right things. How do I capitalize and monetize it?
Partnerships. He sounds like Manesh, is it? Manesh, you sound like
Manish Daga.
Yeah, you sound like somebody who really has a lot of high value, but you're not leveraging it. And success equals value multiplied by leverage. So whilst you've done all these things, you don't necessarily, you're probably going to have three problems. Okay, one is your positioning might be a little off, so go and check that. Number two is that your packaging of your products and services may not be exactly enough. For instance, I wonder if you've got $100,000 product, because there will be a natural audience for that. I wonder if you've got a $10,000 US product. I wonder if you've got a $1,000 US product. I wonder if you've got a $100 US product, because there's audience for all of those, because you're already out there doing it. So don't miss those. And the third thing is partnerships. So you've met a lot of people in that journey of speaking in 40 countries, et cetera. Some of those will have really loved you. You need to reconnect, build relationships with those and see what you can do together, particularly which can maximize your brand, because, like India, we live in part of the time in South Africa, but we earn in US dollars and euros. So it's nice to earn in euros and spend it in South African rand, just as it's nice to earn in USD and spend it in rupees. So more international partners, I think, is the answer to your question.
Right. Mike, we are at 12 o'clock. Can I extend it by another 5 minutes? Because I have a couple
Sure.
of more questions. And if the audience is fine, we'll take
Yep.
2 or 3 questions more before we wind up. Yeah.
Perfect.
The question from Solomon, what are all the elements one needs to build or develop for a personal branding? For example, book, LinkedIn page, etc., and steps to create a global brand, not just a local brand.
Okay, well, creating a global brand is literally just taking the elements and globalizing it. And the best and quickest way to globalize it's going to be through partners and post-COVID actually going somewhere. You know, years ago, I said to a client of mine who wanted to go global, I told him, just get on a plane and go somewhere. He said, who's going to talk to me? I said, well, immigration at the other side, they have to. I made a joke. But he actually went to India and now his products are in 10,000 schools in India. So, you know, but he didn't know anybody in India at the time. He just went there and he just started creating. Now, COVID doesn't let us do that at the moment. So the thing is you need partners, you need to reach out, you need to create relationships. LinkedIn's going to be your best place for that. Right. As to 5 things to brand you, to help you, create some sort of sampling of your work that can really help you. Make sure your LinkedIn profile is up to date. Make sure your social footprint basically says the same thing across all of your social footprints. Then make sure that you've got good testimonials so that you've got testimonials from the right people. And then after that, make sure that you get some magazines, articles written, or win an award or something like that that you can talk about. That would be a way.
Right. My personal take on personal branding is, isn't it about being memorable? You know, isn't
Absolutely.
it about leaving that impression, whether it's through your positioning, whether it's through your work, whether how you speak, or what your work is? It's about being memorable, isn't it?
Yes, it totally is. And that's why a company is not as memorable as a person. You know, because, you know, even though I know Richard Branson, but I've had some pretty lousy experiences on Virgin Airlines.
Right.
You know,
right.
so
which brings us to the next question, which is a very interesting one. Where somebody said that companies like L&T, TCS, of course, these are Indian companies, Godrej, do not have an individual leader brand. However, you know, but they are a brand. In the book Good to Great, also author has analyzed great companies and presented that for great and have not had great individuals leading them at that point of time. Doesn't it contradict with what we have been speaking so far? Is it personal branding?
No, because I think we're talking about multinational, multi-shareholder owned public companies versus SMEs and even large companies, you know, but even multinationals, you know, a lot of your people there would have read Jack Welch's books. I mean, you know, so hello, he was the chairperson of a multinational company. So, and a very, very strong one, but he built a personal brand and you know, your company is going to be sold one day. You're going to retire, but your grandchildren aren't going to be talking about, oh, it wasn't Goodyear a good company and this and that and the other. They're going to be talking about granddad or grandma. So I don't think it's contradictory at all, because when companies enter into a certain space where CEOs are nothing more than custodians, and most of them don't stay for any longer than 3 years. So their personal brand they're trying to build is, hey, I'm a great CEO, so now I shouldn't be a CEO of this company in India. Now I should be a CEO of something on the New York Stock Exchange. So that's what they're focused on. It's all about ego. It's not about the business.
Right. I think we have time only for that. We would be sharing the recording of this conversation with Mike, with you guys shortly. You can definitely go through that. And also the infographic that Mike has promised to send to me will be shared with all the attendees today. Can't thank you enough, Mike, for this amazing session, and also a special shout out to Akhil Shahani, one of our members who has been kind enough to introduce me to you. And the day when we spoke, I knew that we wanted to do one session with you. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for the session.
Thank you. And thank you, everybody. Thanks, Archana. I'll send that infographic through now. Thanks for your wonderful questions, everybody, and have a wonderful rest of your year in India. Look forward to seeing some of you again. Bye-bye.
Thank you, attendees.